Next up on Monday Night Raw, at least according to my notes, was the very uncomfortable, strange, odd, cringy interview with Bobby Lashley and Renee Young. Now, I liked what they did here initially. They showed a big video package about Bobby Lashley, about his life, about his background, something that I've been telling them to do ever since he got there, because I've said all along that there's going to be some fans that might not know who the hell Bobby Lashley even is. And if they do remember him, they might not remember him very well. He hasn't been in the company in 10 years. He was never really that big of a name to begin with, but they're bringing him back as if he is this Brock Lesnar level of character, but nobody gives a shit. He gets no reaction whatsoever from the audience. He's got the charisma of a box of laundry detergent. The guy just doesn't connect at all with the audience, despite how good he is and his amazing look. I mean, this guy looks like a badass, and I loved the way they chronicled his life and showed all of the, the championships he won, wrestling on an amateur level, and being in the armed forces and all that stuff. The guy really does have a very good story. And he's a very hardworking, driven, motivated human being, and he is very likable. The problem is the fans just don't care. And then after they show the video package, they go to a sit-down interview with Renee Young, where all he does is talk about his 3 or 4 sisters, tells a story about all of them, and then says that he loves them, and that's it. And that was it. I was just sitting there, I was doing the live stream on Monday, and I'm just looking at the camera like, what am I watching? If WWE is trying to make this guy likable, that shouldn't be that hard to do. I mean, all you have to do, a video package will tell that story. So the whole thing was just odd. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. And it did a horrible job, I think, of making Bobby Lashley likable to the fans. Not because he's not saying anything that's not relatable. I'm sure everybody can relate to some of what Lashley says, but there's just something missing there. The video package was great. There was really nothing wrong with that video package. But when he sat down and talked to Renee Young about absolutely nothing, to me that all killed it. So WWE needs to rethink this. If they can't figure out a way to really get the fans to care about him in the role of a babyface, then you gotta make this motherfucker a heel. And that's another problem with Bobby Lashley, is if you try to envision him as an angry, vicious heel, you can't even picture it, can you? Because he's got that nice, innocent, sweet face. He's not like Braun Strowman. He can't do a big growl. He can't yell. His best bet maybe would be to try. We've never seen him with any. I don't even know if he knows how to grow a beard, but maybe the guy should grow a big beard. Make himself look like Kimbo Slice. Wear a fucking do-rag. Get some tattoos. I don't know. Just do something just to make him look a little scarier, because he just doesn't, despite his physical ridiculousness, how big this guy is and how strong he is, freakishly strong he doesn't strike fear when I look at him. He doesn't strike fear in me the way Braun Strowman does. I mean, even on the other side of the TV screen in the comfort of my own home, this guy has got me shitting my pants sometimes in fear. Don't get that feeling from Bobby Lashley at all. So I don't know what they can do here. I don't know what advice I can even give to WWE. I'm sure they're trying their best, but right now doesn't feel like it's working with Bobby Lashley, and I'm hoping things turn the corner, because Lashley, like I said, he is a likable guy. There's no good reason to root against this guy. On paper, this guy has what it takes to be a big star, but he's not translating on television, and that's really the only way I can think of to describe it. So I hope that makes sense to any of you guys. And if you have any suggestions of what you think WWE should do with Bobby Lashley to help him get over a little bit more and help the fans actually give a shit about the guy, please let me know in the comments below, because I would love to hear some ideas, and tweet your ideas to WWE. I think they could use some as well. Next up on Raw, we had another match between Jinder Mahal and Chad Gable. Now, last week, Chad Gable beat Jinder Mahal completely clean in a one-on-one match. Jinder Mahal is bothering Kurt Angle all night long. He wants to be in the Money in the Bank. But right now, Kurt Angle is not even putting him in a qualifying match. So basically, this match against Chad Gable is just to try to convince Kurt Angle to put Jinder Mahal in a qualifying match. So basically, this is a qualifying match to qualify for a qualifying match. It's confusing as fuck. But Jinder Mahal does avenge the loss from last week, beats Chad Gable, and now I guess Kurt Angle might put him in a qualifying match next week on Monday Night Raw. And that would not be the last we would see of Jinder Mahal in this show either. Next up, we had a tag team match between Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler taking on Rhino and Slater. So we had a little miniature 3MB reunion here. Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler beat the absolute shit out of these two guys and hit their really cool tandem finisher that I like. I believe they hit that on Slater very viciously when Rhino was knocked off the ring apron, and they got the very easy win there. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Drew McIntyre. I mentioned that last week. When I look at the guy physically, when I look at what he has, his physical gifts, his size, his look, his ring ability, and his mic skills, I don't know. I said this last week. I don't know what WWE sees in Roman Reigns that they don't see in Drew McIntyre. I mean, he's got it all. And people could argue that he has it better than Roman Reigns. So to me, this guy is the next big thing, and I hope he is pushed to the moon by WWE. The alliance with Dolph Ziggler is a little bit annoying. One thing I don't like is when Drew McIntyre comes out there to his music and then the music stops and Dolph Ziggler's pink sparkly music starts and Drew McIntyre has got to walk down to the ring to this nonsense. I think Ziggler should come out first and then Drew should follow Ziggler instead of the other way around. It would fit better. But to see this badass ass-kicking monster Drew McIntyre coming down to the ring with pink stars all over the Titantron, I don't like it. Doesn't fit. And I don't think it's good for Drew at all. But that's really my only complaint about this alliance so far. I say take it slow with Drew McIntyre. He doesn't have to be world champion tomorrow, but he definitely does need to be in that mix at some point in the future. So whatever they're doing here with Ziggler, if they're using Ziggler as a stepping stone for Drew McIntyre and it's going to lead to a breakup and Ziggler's going to put him over, whatever the hell happens there, I don't know. Just please, WWE, don't fuck up this Drew McIntyre situation. You have got a gem on your hands here, and please don't ruin it. Make this guy a star because I think he's got all the tools. We had a one-on-one match next with Bobby Roode taking on Elias. Now, Bobby Roode and Elias fought last week. Roode got counted out when he took a really nasty throat bump on the turnbuckle or whatever, and referee had to stop the match. This week, it's a one-on-one match with Elias again, and he beats him. Bobby Roode beats Elias completely clean, hits the glorious DDT, pins him 1, 2, 3, whatever there. Bobby Roode, I think he's losing steam. I think he's starting to lose the respect of the audience. Well, I don't want to say respect because Bobby Roode's a great talent. Don't get me wrong. But I view him more as like a mid-card, semi-main event guy at the most. You know, U.S. title, shit like that. Where Elias, I just see as a huge star. The guy is involved in segment after segment every week on TV. He gets a great crowd reaction. He's over his shit. Fans like him. His overall character presentation, ability, how comfortable he is on the mic, how talented he is with the guitar and his charisma and everything. He has some charisma. He has the charisma that I wish Bobby Lashley had. I wish you could tear a chunk of charisma off of Elias and give it to Lashley, you know, just to help him out. But, you know, as far as the outcome here, a lot of people were upset that Bobby Roode beat Elias. Me, I really don't care. For me, I don't give a shit. Doesn't matter to me either way. I think Elias still has a ton of potential, and in the long run and in the long term, I don't know if this loss to Bobby Roode is really going to harm Elias all that much, especially if a briefcase is in his future. Next up on Monday Night Raw was the Intercontinental Title Open Challenge match that I referenced earlier on. Seth Rollins comes down to the ring on Raw and offers an open invitation to anybody in the locker room that wants to come down to the ring and challenge him for the belt. Mojo Rawley answers that challenge, which was kind of random, but whatever. Mojo gets in the ring and gives Seth a pretty decent little match. Seth winds up beating Mojo with the blackout in what was his 5th successful title defense on television or pay-per-view inside of 1 month, which to me, like I said earlier, is just an incredible stat. I mean, how many times did Brock Lesnar defend the Universal title in the last year? Compare that to how many times Seth Rollins has defended the Intercontinental title just in the last month, and I bet you it's pretty close. So Seth is my guy right now. I cannot say enough good things about him, but don't worry, I'm not going to go too crazy professing my love to Seth Rollins because I already sucked his dick earlier on in this episode, so I'm not going to keep that going, but you guys know that Seth is my guy right now. I am so fucking impressed, and I love that Intercontinental title around his waist. And then finally, in the main event, we had a Money in the Bank qualifying match, which was a triple threat match between Sami Zayn, Finn Balor, and Roman Reigns. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens still have their issues. They were backstage after Owens got beat by Strowman, and Zayn was asking Owens to have his back. And Owens said, yes, sure, I've got your back. He never really appeared in this triple threat match, so I think next week on Raw, things are going to get closer to boiling over between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and I'm guessing it might lead to some sort of a match and maybe even a blow-off at Extreme Rules. Wouldn't be surprised at all if these guys guys finally have one big final battle at Extreme Rules. What, maybe 2 years after their last final battle took place, which I also think was a July pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like they're, leading down that road with those guys at some point. But this was a nice match because Roman Reigns didn't win. Right when you think Roman Reigns is going to get the victory here, out of nowhere, Jinder Mahal appears at ringside. Roman, I believe, is set up for the spear, and Jinder grabs Roman Reigns' leg, allowing Finn Balor, I think, to hit the coup de grace on Sami Zayn and get the win. So Roman was screwed over by Jinder Mahal, which to me is just kind of odd. What are they going to do? Put Jinder Mahal and Roman Reigns in a program now? That's going to be crazy. What I'm thinking is going to happen is that since Jinder interfered, Kurt Angle is going to make Jinder Mahal face Roman Reigns in a qualifying match for Money in the Bank, which I don't see Jinder Mahal winning that. So what the motivation for Jinder was to even come out there and interfere in that match, I have no idea. So I don't know where that's leading or what they're going to do there. My only guess, like I said, is it will lead to a qualifying match between Jinder and Roman may still wind up qualifying for the Money in the Bank. And we've all been talking a lot about Roman Reigns. He's been a big topic of conversation lately, considering all the matches he's lost to Brock Lesnar and how WWE still is trying to get this guy over as a babyface. It's almost as if they don't understand that nobody gives a shit. Now they might be putting him in the ring with another guy that all of the fans hate, hoping that between the two, Roman will get the majority of the cheers. I have no idea what's going on in WWE's head. Bottom line here is fans just don't give a shit about Roman Reigns. That's just the facts of it. And so if WWE wants to continue to try all these little things to get him over, well, I guess they can, but it seems like a big waste of time to me because nothing is working. So I guess we'll find out next week what Roman Reigns and Jinder Mahal will be doing at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, whether they're wrestling each other or whether one of them makes it into the ladder match. And maybe they do a match next week with Roman and Jinder does find a way to win. He cheats to win, he gets some interference on his behalf somehow, and winds up beating Roman Reigns and qualifying for the Money in the Bank. I don't know, but if I had to guess right now, judging from the finish of the main event, I think Kurt Angle will probably make Jinder face Roman Reigns in a match next week. Whether or not that's for a spot in the Money in the Bank match, I guess we'll have to wait and see there. So that's pretty much your Raw in a nutshell. Like I said, not as bad of a show as it was the week before, but nothing really that great either. Just a lot of qualifying matches and a lot of, they're setting the groundwork for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. The same thing took place on SmackDown Live. Now, SmackDown was a pretty quick show. Wasn't a whole lot going on. A couple of qualifying matches, and one of them opened the show. It was The Miz taking on Jeff Hardy. In a singles match, the winner qualifies for the Money in the Bank. This one was pretty predictable to me, considering that Jeff Hardy successfully retained at Backlash and defeated Randy Orton clean, and The Miz lost to Seth Rollins clean. Hardy has a belt. Miz does not. Miz was the guy that needed to win here. I was happy with the outcome of the match, and I'm glad that The Miz is in the Money in the Bank because he's a guy on the men's side of things that's on my short list. He's probably right up there with the number one guy that I would like to see win the briefcase because The Miz can make it entertaining. That's been my argument all along, that the briefcase needs to be in the hands of a dirty heel because they make it so fun and entertaining. So I think The Miz would be a great candidate to win that briefcase, and right now I'm kind of hoping that he does. We then had a women's qualifying match with Charlotte taking on Peyton Royce. Now, Charlotte, not surprisingly here, she did tap out Peyton Royce with the figure eight rather easily here. That's the outcome that should have happened. But again, much like Strowman and much like Roman, I'm surprised they're even putting Charlotte in this Money in the Bank match. I thought she would be in line for another title shot. She doesn't need the briefcase. Charlotte is who she is. She's the most decorated female wrestler in WWE history already in her short career. She doesn't really need a briefcase to win the belt. But considering that she technically lost clean at Backlash to Carmella, maybe she's been pushed down the ladder a little bit, and this is her way to get back in it. But, I thought Peyton Royce, would obviously be a contender to win the briefcase, or one of them, but she tapped out in a pretty quick match to Charlotte there. Don't know if the Iconics are going to get another opportunity. Maybe Billie Kay gets a qualifying match next week. Maybe she wins, maybe she loses, we don't know. But right now, we've got Charlotte in there, and it looks like WWE is trying to stack both the men's and the women's Money in the Bank matches with as much top talent as they can. That's the way it looks like right now. And as far as Charlotte goes and her status at Money in the Bank and her spot in that ladder match, it could very well be in jeopardy because there have been some reports circulating the past couple of days that she has popped one of her breast implants. Not really sure where this injury took place, if it took place at Backlash or on Tuesday night against Peyton Royce, but apparently she's going to have to get this thing operated on. Now, from what I've read, it looks like she's working the UK tour right now. So maybe this is something that you can hold off. I don't know how urgent something like this is. If you pop a tit, if you have to get it operated on right away, or if you can hold it off. It looks like they're holding it off for Charlotte, and she'll probably get that done when she comes back here to the States. And again, recovery time on that, I'm really not sure. I mean, for actual breast implants, that takes a while, but for a repair job like this, I don't know. Money in the Bank is still over a month away. So it's possible that Charlotte could still be good to go for the Money in the Bank ladder match. If not, I guess they will just remove her and have another qualifying match to find a replacement, if I had to guess. But best of luck to Charlotte dealing with that very strange injury, and I hope she does not have to be kept on the shelf for very long and she gets back in action ASAP. Next on SmackDown, we had a one-on-one match between Cesaro and Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods took on Sheamus last week and beat him. This week, Cesaro takes on Xavier one-on-one and does avenge the loss of Sheamus last week and beats Xavier Woods. And it was announced in a really interesting kind of stipulation here. Next week on SmackDown, we're going to get a tag team match between the New Day and The Bar. And it's going to be a Money in the Bank qualifying match, which I believe means the winner, whichever tag team wins, gets to send one guy into the Money in the Bank match. So basically, it's up to them. They get to choose. And how long, how many weeks now have I been begging WWE to do something with Big E? I have absolutely loved this guy. He is so fucking entertaining. It drives me crazy. I think he's got potential out the ass. He's really kind of come into his own in the New Day, and he does such a good job of being a really funny, goofy, hysterical type of character, a guy that will just make you die in laughter when he's eating pancakes and rubbing baby oil all over himself. But at the same time, when he wants to get mad and angry, he scares you shitless. So I don't know what they're going to do here, if they're ever going to disband the New Day, if they're ever going to go their separate ways. But this might be the beginning of it. If New Day wins next week, I don't know how they decide who gets in the Money in the Bank match, but I'm hoping Big E will be the man selected. You would think it might be Kofi or Xavier because they're quick and they can run up the ladder quicker, but put Big E in there. That would be my vote. I think the guy's amazing, and I think he being in possession of the Money in the Bank briefcase would be very entertaining. Could you imagine Big E coming out there carrying his briefcase with the New Day and eating pancakes and wearing a helmet, and all of the different teases and cash-ins he could do? As far as a babyface holding the briefcase, he would probably be one of the more entertaining picks as far as a babyface goes, to be the briefcase holder, because otherwise, if it's like Roman Reigns or something, what's going to happen? I'm going to hold the briefcase and cash it in, and I'm not going to do anything dirty or anything like that. It's just going to be too babyface-ish. It's like when Cena had the briefcase. It was stupid. So if you are going to put the briefcase with a babyface, you got to make it somebody fun, and you have to do it with somebody fun. So I don't necessarily know if this is going to be the beginning of Big E's push or not, or the beginning of something more for him. But judging from the match that they've announced next week, it's in the back of my mind that maybe this could be it for Big E. I'm keeping my fingers crossed because I am a big fan of his. We had another women's qualifying matchup next. Mandy Rose defeated Becky Lynch to qualify. Now, Paige had banned Sonya Deville backstage in a really cringy segment. God, the acting is so fucking terrible. Mandy Rose is back there with Sonya Deville, and they're talking about something, and Paige approaches them and informs Sonya Deville that she's banned from ringside. And it was so stupid. Paige said something like, "I'm sorry, Sonya, but you are banned." And then Sonya's like, what do you mean I'm banned? And I'm watching this like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm banned? How much clearer can you be? It was just really poor acting. These women, a lot of these stars, men and women in the WWE, I know they already have some acting classes, but they need to get some better people teaching these classes or something, because they fucking suck. So that whole backstage thing was dumb. But then they go to the match, and Mandy Rose actually picks up an upset victory over Becky Lynch, and she qualifies. And I like Mandy Rose as well. She is extremely easy on the eyes, even though my girl right now is Peyton Royce. I'm a Mandy Rose fan, and I'm hoping that Becky Lynch can still find her way in here. And that's the thing. With a lot of these matches, we still have a full month until Money in the Bank. We're going to get some second chance matches and all that kind of shit. Somebody that's lost a qualifying match previously, I think, will probably wind up qualifying in the end. There's probably a couple of talents like that. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Becky Lynch, Ruby Riott, maybe even a Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens, maybe even a Roman Reigns. I wouldn't be surprised to see any of those guys find their way into the respective Money in the Bank matches. So if anybody's freaking out that their guy or their girl isn't in the Money in the Bank match yet, just calm down. They might still get in there. Don't freak out. And in another surprising outcome, the main event of SmackDown was incredibly surprising. It was like a weekend of surprising outcomes. I did not see Daniel Bryan tapping out Big Cass at Backlash. I did not see Carmella defeating Charlotte clean. I did not see Mandy Rose defeating Becky. And I certainly didn't see Rusev defeating Daniel Bryan clean. I mean, there was no bullshit going on in this match. It was crazy. It was a good match between Daniel Bryan and Rusev. Daniel Bryan, you thought, would easily, dispose of Rusev and qualify for the Money in the Bank, but I guess they're going with the story that Cass really softened up Daniel Bryan, because don't forget, after their match at Backlash, Cass attacked Daniel Bryan to kind of keep his heat going and beat the shit out of him after the match. So I guess technically Daniel Bryan wasn't 100%. But he got in the ring with Rusev, and Rusev ended up hitting him with the Machka kick and pinned him and qualified for the Money in the Bank in a finish that I really liked. I was actually perfectly fine with that. I love Rusev. And I don't know if this is just a red herring, if WWE really has no intention of doing anything with Rusev. He's so fucking over. We hear Rusev chants on Raw, SmackDown pay-per-views everywhere. The guy sells a ton of merchandise. They're even teasing putting him back together with Lana, which I think is eventually going to happen. I think Rusev is going to dump Aiden English, even though I love the two of them together. I think they're pushing and they're kind of moving towards a reunion between Rusev and Lana on television anyway, and Lana is just looking amazing in some of her backstage segments with the two of them when she wears that Rusev shirt, that low-cut Rusev shirt. Oh my God. And her accent has mysteriously gone away, which I poked fun at last week. And as stupid as I find all of that, I'm never going to complain about staring at Lana. It is pretty awesome. So maybe what winds up happening is Aiden English tries to get involved in Money in the Bank and ends up screwing over Rusev somehow. Maybe Rusev has got his hands on the briefcase and Aiden English does something to fuck it up. And then the next week on TV, Rusev blames him, beats the shit out of Aiden English, and reforms his alliance with Lana, and they become a pair again on television. That's kind of where I see that going. Otherwise, if you want to put the briefcase with Rusev, I'm perfectly fine with that too. He would be a hugely entertaining briefcase holder. The guy's awesome. So, between, Rusev and Big E and even a Braun Strowman, there are some entertaining and interesting possibilities here for the Money in the Bank. And I guess we still have like 4 more guys to qualify for this thing. So right now on the men's side of things in the Money in the Bank, we have Braun Strowman, Finn Balor, The Miz, and Rusev. Of those 4 guys, as much as I love Braun Strowman, I would rather see Miz or Rusev win the briefcase as far as those 4 guys go. If they add Big E, if they wind up adding Jinder or Roman or maybe even Daniel Bryan at some point in the future, maybe even a Samoa Joe. We didn't see Samoa Joe on SmackDown, so maybe he comes back next week and wins a qualifying match. That's very possible. So it's going to be a beefy Money in the Bank match. We're going to have some big guys in there. We're going to have some smaller guys in there. It's going to be a wide array of all sorts of shapes and sizes of wrestlers in this briefcase match. And it should be pretty fun. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens next week and when we get the remainder of the qualifiers. I'm guessing that they're going to stretch this out at least a couple of weeks. I don't think that we're going to get everybody next week on the men's and women's side of things. We'll probably get a couple of more qualifying matches next week, and then they'll be finalized the week after that, around the time that I do my 500th episode, actually. So it should be a lot of fun. Let me know who you think is going to win the Money in the Bank briefcase on the men's side of things and the women's side of things. And on the women, we only have 3, I believe, that have qualified so far: Ember Moon, Charlotte, and Mandy Rose. So I don't know who all of your early picks are to win the briefcase. One of my early picks was Ruby Riott, but right now she's not qualified. She had lost her qualifying match, so unless she gets a second chance opportunity or something like that, she might not even make it in, but she would be one of my early picks as far as women that I would like to see win the briefcase. Ruby Riott would be on the top of my list. We also saw no AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura on SmackDown, but we saw Shinsuke. He did an interview with Renee Young backstage. Nothing was revealed as far as what they're going to do next between these two. I'm guessing that will come next week, and they'll probably announce a rematch for Money in the Bank. One more opportunity for Shinsuke, and maybe, like I said earlier, Shinsuke wins the title at Money in the Bank, and then AJ gets the rematch at Extreme Rules in a really big stipulation match, and Shinsuke retains, and that's it, and he moves on to SummerSlam. But at what point is AJ Styles gonna wear a fucking cup? What is this guy thinking? Put some protection on your twig and berries when you got this asshole from Japan kicking the shit out of them every single time you guys are in the ring together. At this point, AJ Styles is just starting to look stupid. So wear some fucking protection. And I mentioned in my last episode, it would be funny if they did a play on the Goldberg-Bret Hart steel plate from WCW when Bret Hart wore the plate. Goldberg speared him and knocked himself out. It would be really funny if AJ wore a steel cup and Nakamura goes for the nut shot and winds up injuring his arm or leg or something. You know, maybe he goes for the kick. Maybe he kicks the cup, damages his leg, and AJ then immediately locks him into the calf crusher and makes Shinsuke tap out. So they should do some sort of a finish like that at this point. But as much as we have seen the nut shots during this feud, you know that's got to play in to the blow off somehow. So it looks like they might stretch this out 2 more pay-per-views, especially if Shinsuke wins the belt. Because if he does, then you know AJ is entitled to a rematch. And we're going to be looking here at 5 or 6 matches between these two when this program finally wraps up. So that pretty much wraps up your reviews this week for Backlash, Monday Night Raw, and SmackDown. Before I get out of here, though, I do want to mention one other thing as well, and that is Chris Jericho made a surprise return to New Japan Pro Wrestling. A lot of you guys have been asking me to comment on this. I loved this. This was a very pleasant surprise for me. I was really happy about this because I was under the assumption that Chris Jericho was done with New Japan. He worked the match with Kenny Omega at the beginning of the year. He attacked Naito like the next day, and it looked like they were going to build to a match between those two, and then out of nowhere, the whole thing just falls through and Chris Jericho is done with New Japan. Even said so in several interviews that he wasn't going to be going back there, and it sounded like it was kind of a money issue or something. So for him to make a surprise return here, I thought was great, and I was very pleasantly surprised to hear about this news. And they do have a show coming up next month, the Big Dominion show, and I guess that's where they're going to book the Jericho and Naito match, which is great. I'll be watching that. Should be a lot of fun. And Jericho going back over there might explain now why he might have been bumped from the match with The Undertaker. We still don't know what was going on at the Greatest Royal Rumble, with Rusev getting the match, then being replaced by Jericho, then Jericho being replaced by Rusev. Maybe this New Japan deal had something to do with it. Maybe Chris Jericho informed WWE that he was going to go back there for one more stint, and then they decided to pull him from the match with The Undertaker. I don't know the story there. I don't even know if that's true, but it might explain why WWE was going around in circles with that fucking casket match at the Greatest Royal Rumble. But as far as Jericho going back to New Japan, I think it's awesome. I loved it when he was there the first time, and I hope his match in June with Naito is just as good as his match with Omega was back in January. So I will be looking forward to watching that show, and I'm sure I will get up some sort of a review on it as well. So that is pretty much it for me for this week. I've got to get out of here and go to work, and then I'm going to come home tonight and edit this whole damn thing and get it up to you. And don't forget, like I said, keep a lookout on the channel in the next couple of weeks. We've got a lot going on. This coming Monday night on Raw, I probably will be skipping my live Raw watch along, although check on the channel and check on Twitter also, because if I do decide to do one, I will. If I'm able to do one, I still will come up here, but right now I'm not planning on it. And then in 2 weeks, we've got the big 500th episode celebration. Should be a lot of fun. Send me all of your questions if you want to chat wrestling and you want to submit a question for the live Q&A or the podcast version of the Q&A. Send them over to goodmicwork@gmail.com, or you can tweet them to me or Facebook them to me, or if you're a supporter on Patreon, you can ask your questions there. So you guys have a great rest of your week and weekend, and I will talk to you in just a few days. Until next time, peace.
This has been a Good Mic Work Commentaries production. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/goodmicwork. Follow Greg Morgan on Twitter @GoodMicWork and visit goodmicworkcommentaries.com for all the latest podcast and video content.